And welcome to another episode of the Franchise Academy. And this is where we bring you everything you ever needed to know about franchising, everything that you ever needed to know about operating a business as well. Small business or franchise, doesn't matter. So I like to bring in industry experts. And that's why I brought in an old friend of mine, Joe Buzzello. So Joe is the sales guy, and he will help us understand some things that you might have never understood before. So, Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tommy. Good to be on here. Thanks for inviting me.
No, this is really cool. So, this I found this little book, in the library. And I actually, this is a signed copy, so I'm really excited about that.
That's great. That's worth nothing on eBay. No, it's probably worth a few bucks.
It's worth a lot. There's so many golden nuggets in the cap equation. It'll blow your mind. And actually, when you release it, actually is when we first met in New York. If you remember,
yes,
we were at the publicity summit with the Steve Harrison group back then.
Right.
And
great coaching group.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. But here we are 4 years later, and you're killing it. You just moved. I think you're a California native who moved.
That's
to
right.
Scottsdale.
55 years in California, and 3 years ago, we relocated to Scottsdale. We're loving it here in Scottsdale. I miss my friends in LA, but Scottsdale is a great place to live.
And it's a great place to play golf.
Yes,
right?
Which I will be doing in about 2 hours.
Yeah, awesomeness. Oh my God. And so you actually played with, what was your involvement with the PGA?
Well, I was an assistant professional. I was a teaching professional for a couple of years in Los Angeles, and I played on the mini tours, the Golden State Tour, but I was playing against guys. In fact, Tom Lehman was on the Golden State Tour at that time, and he's now he's a British Open winner and a senior champion golfer. So I was playing with a lot of guys that were a lot better than me. They could putt better. They had better temperaments. And so I didn't pull too many checks. So that was my very short stint as a professional golfer. Then I went back into sales after that.
Yeah. So it's, and I'll tell you, I'm actually going to be in Tucson in a couple of months, but if I get up to Scottsdale, I have cousins in Scottsdale on both sides of the family. We'll go out.
We're Italian. We have cousins everywhere, right?
That's true. That's right. And so we'll go out and play around, but I have to warn you, I play exclusively in the 60s and 70s.
So you don't play the back nine?
No. Actually, I do. I play all 18, but once the temperature goes to like 80 or 90, I'm still
I knew there was a joke there. I just didn't know the punchline.
We were going somewhere.
Yeah.
And so I'll leave the comedy to my wife. So being a stand-up comedian, she's the one that does the joking around here. So, but anyway, I'm so happy to have you. And so the listeners, for the most part, are franchise owners, people looking to buy a franchise, a lot of franchise companies, a lot of franchise attorneys, a lot of decision makers. And I know that you do a lot of speaking for these kind of organizations. Well, what's the topic now that is hot for you?
It's interesting. There's a couple things that we have two primary businesses here that we build. We invest in businesses, but we have two that we primarily build here. One is really based right in Scottsdale, and another one is virtual and scalable. But the one that's based right here in Scottsdale in the Phoenix Valley is called Advance AZ, and Advance AZ is a small business mentorship platform. We bring together diverse groups of small business owners, industry diverse, and we put about 12 to 14 in a room once a month for 3.5 hours and have intense sessions working through their issues, their challenges, their opportunities. And so I've learned a lot over the last 2 years of building that platform, and it's growing like a weed right now. So we're very excited about the growth. We'll be at probably 50 or 60 members by the end of this year, beginning of January. But there are a couple things that it's funny, you get 12, 14 business owners in a room, and we have some franchisees, we have people in medicine, we have healthcare, we have people in telecommunications, we have people in real estate, just so every industry you can imagine, HVAC, we have a cabinet coding company. We have all these wonderful CEOs. But when they first get together, when we first form a group, they think, well, I'm really not going to have the same problems as that person sitting across the table. And then that lasts for about 60 days. That lasts for a cycle of about 3.5 hour meetings. And then they realize, hey, we all have the same problems. We sell different widgets, but we all have the same problems. I'm speaking to the choir. You know, this is true. So there's a couple of things that we spend a great deal of time on, and we could probably go a little deeper, but we spend a lot of time actually on the numbers, knowing the metrics, getting the money right, getting the runway right. One of the things that I've learned is it always takes a business about twice as long to get where they want to go, get over the hump, so to speak. So money's a big issue, talking about the runway, capital needed to get into business and to really stick and stay. A lot of people get that wrong. You see that too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Again, preaching to the choir, people do not ever have enough money. They think they have enough money
Yeah.
to start up. And so I caution my clients to make sure that they have, 3 buckets of money covered, right? It's easy to open. You got the money for that.
Yeah.
How long is it going to take you to actually make a profit? Because you don't make a profit day one in a business. Sometimes it could take 6 months or a year to make a profit in a business, depending on what it is, even longer. So what are you doing to survive with that? But the thing that most people forget is how they're going to pay their mortgage while they're trying to build a business. So you got to have like a third bucket in the background of money just to pay your home expenses and put food on the table and gas in the car,
Absolutely. So you're a great coach and mentor. I know that. So you see that too. You see that people go in, and we go in bright-eyed and bushy-tailed with a lot of hope, and we should have hope, and with a lot of faith, and we should have faith. But sometimes we just don't get the money right, and we don't understand our numbers and metrics inside the business.
You're so right. And I was definitely one of those people when I first started, because I was a government guy, and then I bought a franchise, and I was operating out of a shoebox. And somebody said to me, so what KPIs are important to you? I was like, I don't know what a KPI is. So I'm serious. And so
I get it. I understand.
I'm like, wow, I didn't realize how much I didn't know. And then the franchise came in and really, once they realized that I was kind of off in left field, they kind of dragged me in and got me like, right in the batter's box. And then I ended up killing it. But the thing I was just sharing with somebody, I just got one of those indoor Peloton bike, the stationary bikes.
Yep.
So you're on there's a screen in front of you, and you feel like you're in the class, and all your numbers are on the bottom of the screen. And the instructor's saying, okay, I want you to be at a cadence of 80, which just means that you're going a certain, whatever on the bike, you're going so fast. And I realized, so like I look down, all right, I'm at 80, I'm going. And then I look down again and I'm at 60 because I'm not watching the numbers. It's just like, that's that simple, right? It's that simple. Yeah. You're not watching the numbers, they're going to slide away from you.
That's right. So it's interesting. I think in the words of Michael Gerber, the great author of the E-Myth and the E-Myth Revisited, he talks about this phrase I love, entrepreneurial seizure. So many of the people that come to you, so many of the people that we coach at one point in time had an entrepreneurial seizure. They woke up one morning and said, I'm smarter than the guy I'm working for, so I'm going to go into business for myself. I'm going to hang my own shingle. And that's how it happens, right? And then the numbers are tough. I'll tell you one other thing that we see again when we're coaching all these great CEOs and founders around the table. Attracting the right talent, getting the right people. I'm going to use the old analogy, getting the right people on the bus and then getting them in the right seat on the bus. This is the management of the workplace culture. How to get the best of them, how to retain them, how to have coaching sessions when coaching sessions are necessary, which is different than performance management. Just that stuff with the people. Let's say the product is right and you have the right location and let's say you have a handle on your numbers. Do you see that as well? Do you see that just the attraction of the right people and getting in the right seat on the bus is a problem for almost everyone today, especially in a tight market?
Oh, crazy, crazy. That's the number one challenge. So after I put somebody in a business, in a franchise, I typically stay in touch and we talk about once a quarter going forward. And I'm there to help and be a sounding board and all that stuff. But the problem I hear all the time is just that problem is hiring the right people, retaining the right people, and having them in the right seat. And when they said that to me, I'm going back 19 years. I said, you know what? I just want to make smoothies. I don't care about all this other crap. You know, the business was not really about making smoothies at all, right?
Well, and that's where, again, I'm going to go back to, I think the E-Myth and Michael Gerber stuff is so great. We teach a lot of it, but the product is not the smoothie. The product is the profitable entity that makes a smoothie. So the product we're trying to focus on is a profitable business. That's really the product. The underlying product is really just a vehicle for that.
There you go. And very well said. I love that. So how did you get started in this whole thing?
I actually had a guest on our podcast. We call it Self Source Radio, SEL Source Radio, Self Source Radio. And we had, his name is Mike Maloney. He was on yesterday. And I thought I knew Mike, but there's one thing I didn't know about Mike. He started in sales when he was 19 years old in 1979. And I started in sales when I was 18 years old in 1979. So we both laughed at that because we have been creating our own paycheck, both of us, for all those years. I don't even want to, that's 4 decades. That's over 40 years. So,
wow.
That's it. Yeah. So I got started in sales. In direct sales, commission sales. So most of my career has been spent in the insurance and financial product and investment product industry. I have done some other things and had some success at creating other businesses and exiting other businesses. I've had success as a vice president, C-suite executive with Fortune 500 companies. So it's all good. I've had all that, but really the impetus of it was my father saying, hey, you've graduated high school. You've already told me you're not going to junior college. You're not going to play PGA. I played high school golf. I got kicked off of my high school golf team. Funny story, because I almost got in a fisticuffs, a fist fight with our high school golf coach. His name was Joe Margucci, another hard-headed Italian. And he used to play for the Detroit Lions, and he was a coach for USC, and he coached high school golfers like you would coach football players. And he got in my face one morning, and there was some pushing and shoving, and I was kicked off the golf team. So I wasn't, when I graduated later that year, I wasn't going on to college because I wasn't going to play college golf. And my dad actually, his nickname was Buzz. Buzz came with a Camel non-filter. He smoked 3 packs a day. Eventually it caught up with him. God bless him. He's in heaven. He died from lung cancer. Not a stretch of the imagination to believe that could happen. But Buzz, God love him, had that Camel non-filter, and he came over, and I was having breakfast one morning, still living with my parents, obviously, because I had no money. And he put a newspaper in front of me and a red pen, and he said, it's your time to go find a real job. And at that point, I was working in a liquor store as a night manager of a liquor store, which he didn't consider to be a real job. So I answered this ad, and the ad was, I need 3 people to call on my current accounts. Now, I thought, well, I could do that. I could, whatever they sell, I could call on their accounts. That's not a problem. And so it was a blind ad. I went in, I had the interview, and I wasn't going to be calling on accounts. It took me about 2 weeks to figure out that I was going to be cold calling, selling a $39 accident, $39 a year, not month, $39 a year annual premium accident insurance policy for Pennsylvania Life out of their Van Nuys office. And I was actually in my 2nd week of insurance license school before I realized there was no base pay and I'd just be out there on the street. So I got started selling $39 accident products down the street in LA. Great training.
All happening by accident as usual, right? That's usually what I hear.
Yeah.
Amazing and amazing. I'm sure you got some really good nuggets out of that too, right? Some life lessons learned.
Yeah, I mean, it took me it took me about 3 weeks to figure out I was going to make it, maybe 4 weeks. And I I remember my direct report, his name is Tom Smith. He was one of my early mentors, a really great person, still living. He's in his mid 80s now. But Tom said, if the first month doesn't kill you, then you're going to be fine. And so it took me about three and a half weeks to figure out I was going to make it. And there wasn't one seminal moment. It was just me waking up one morning and saying, I can do this. I sold 3 policies 2 weeks ago. I sold 4 policies last week. I'm looking at that trend line. What if I could sell 5 or 6 this week? And I started really in my mind, I started working on the numbers that they asked us. They had this little countdown to success card. You're supposed to keep it in your breast pocket. And every time you walked in a door, you would check off that you walked in that door. And you were supposed to walk in 60 doors a day, if you could believe that. Supposed to cold call on 60 small business owners a day and offer this safe driver's accident insurance policy developed only for business owners. So we would do that up until about 5 p.m. when all the businesses closed. And then we drive into the neighborhoods and find trucks, ABC plumbers, Torrey's landscaping. And we go knock on the door and say, is that your truck? And we gain entrance in the house. So you were supposed to call on 60 doors a day. And when I actually followed the process that they asked us to follow, when I actually started calling on 60 doors a day, not worrying about who said yes and who said no, I started selling those policies like crazy. The numbers really worked. Out of 60 doors you'd walk in, Tommy, about 15 people would say, sure, I'll listen to your pitch. And about 5 to 6 of those would buy at least one policy. Sometimes they'd add a wife or a key employee. And you'd write 6, 8, 10 units of business a day. So I started earning, and this, by the way, this was back in 1979. I know this doesn't sound like a lot of money, but I was an 18-year-old kid, and all of a sudden I was earning $500 a week, $600, $700 a week, which was a lot of money back then.
Right. Yeah. No question about it. And there's so many little things that I heard there, and I wish that we could keep on going on that. And it's interesting. So what you're saying to like all the franchise owners is if you follow the system, as crazy as it may sound, it actually works. There's a reason they're telling you to do X, Y, Z, whatever it is. Right.
Right. And if you paid, here's a thought, if you paid X amount of dollars for that system, why in the heck would you not follow it? You paid a premium because a franchisor has a proven system. Why would you second guess it? To me, that's crazy. And if their system and their protocols and processes are that bad, then you need to run. You need to get your money back and run. But if you paid a premium for those systems, why would you get in and second guess them? To me, that's lunacy.
Right. And what happens is a lot of franchise owners don't second guess, but they're so busy putting out fires because they don't have the right people in the right seats. Back to your original statement.
Right.
So they don't have the basis to the business down. So,
Gotcha.
so they forego the obvious things that need to be done. So it becomes organizational, and it also becomes the fact, like Gerber talks about, you're a technician and all of a sudden you're a business owner. It's 2 different mindsets and 2 different lifestyles for sure. So that's a big issue.
Yeah, Gerber talks about the technician, the manager, and the visionary. Those are the 3 people he talks about. Most of us enter a business as a technician. Someone has told us, well, we bake great pies. He uses Sarah the Baker in that book. So we bake great pies. So that's why, I should open a pie shop. So we're a technician. We're baking those pies. We've got to move away from baking those pies. We've got to bake the entire business. We've got to work on the business versus in the business. And it's so hard to do. So we have to recognize, everyone listening has to recognize, regardless of whether it's a franchise business or not, you are going to be 3 different people at times. You need to be a technician part of the time, a manager of people, and a visionary. You need to be all 3, and you need to balance that out. But yes, again, here's a thought. This is one of the best pieces of advice ever given to me. There's a model for everything. There's almost nothing new under the sun, nothing that you or I could dream up and put in a book or put in a program. I create a lot of online content for sellsource.com and for Advance AZ. There's nothing we can dream up that's new under the sun. There's a model for every business. And really what we're looking to do is emulate that model. Can we tweak it, change it, fine tune it? Absolutely. But there's a model for everything. Do you agree with that?
I believe that there's nothing new under the sun. Absolutely. And if you did dream up something new under the sun, um, is there a market for it? Because it could sound like something great. Um, and I kind of had that experience with my second franchise that actually failed on me because it sounded like a great concept, but it was brand spanking new, and it was considered what they call a make and take kind of situation. So you come to our location, you make meals following our recipes, using our ingredients, and you take them home and you freeze them uncooked. And on days when you're busy, with golf practice and soccer practice, instead of ordering in pizza again, you could throw one of these home cooked meals in, and you got a meal in 30 minutes that you made with your own hands. Sounded great. Everybody tried it once. Nobody tried it a second time, or most people never came back. And what we realized is that we were trying to change people's habits, and
Right.
without a lot of money and a lot of time, it's almost impossible to change people's habits because even though that seemed convenient, at the end of the day, it wasn't really convenient. So yeah, just we could talk about that's
There's
a
a,
another.
that was, to me, that sounds like a great deal, a great idea on paper. Apparently it was only a great idea on paper. But what you talked about is critical there. And I hope people listening catch that there has to be proof of concept. If you're going to roll yourself out and go all in and take a substantial piece of your nest egg and roll it into a business, there better be proof of concept. You better be looking for that. And one of the things that I also took out of what you said is that there's always an adoption curve. And you were trying to change people's behavior and habits. And the adoption curve, there was a great book, by the way, called Crossing the Chasm. Don't ask me who the author is, but it's about adoption, the adoption process and habits of consumers. And it's mostly about technology, but I believe it'll work in any business. There is an adoption curve. And if you're pre-adoption, you're wasting your time and money. You actually have to see that these products, this process, these services have been adopted. So now, if you came to me right now and said, hey, would you go and make meals and freeze them and then use them later? I'd say no. Just give me a menu of meals that are already made that are delivered to me by Amazon Prime overnight, and I could unfreeze and use tomorrow or next week. I would do that. So our habits now, we've adopted that we could buy things, have them here tomorrow, but we don't want to make them, and we don't even have the time or inclination to make them.
Yep.
So it's, that idea was, to me, that idea was partially right. But again, you could probably Google search pre-made frozen meals delivered in a day and have 10 competitors now that are clicking it in that door.
Well, that's exactly right. And it's even things like Blue Apron, as an example. And Blue Apron is actually struggling because of the same reason. It sounds really good on paper, but now you got the meal in your home and you got to assemble it and cook it. And you're like, all they really did is save me going to the store. Um,
Yeah.
so there are here where I live on Long Island, there's a great company that we just started with last week that actually has healthy, organic meals already made, and you heat them up and that's it. They're done. And it's not a weight loss program. It could be, but it's portion controlled. So yeah. So anyway, not to digress, but they're the adoption curve is something I never really heard of before. So I'm gonna look for that book. And thank you for that, Joe. Another great nugget. This is why we're friends.
Crossing the Chasm. Crossing the Chasm is the name of it, but it's about the adoption curve and the habits of people. But yeah, great book, Tommy.
I'm writing that down.
You would love that.
Crossing the Chasm. Because I often share with people, they call me like, oh, we want a franchise, but we want, basically what they're saying, we want no competition. And if there's no competition, that means it's not a proven concept. And so that's just really fear talking, fear of being an entrepreneur. And I always share with people in the franchise world, in franchising, we don't invent concepts. McDonald's did not invent the hamburger. Midas did not invent mufflers. I mean, it's what we do is we take it and we systematize it so we could roll it out, and so the average person could get into the business and be a business owner. So when you are looking for a franchise, you're not looking for the cutting edge thing. You're not going to get into green technology. You're not going to get into cannabis, which everybody's talking to me about now. You're going to get into something that maybe is really old concept, like painting or sewer. I mean, and those are the things that make money, real money, and things that are recession resistant and Amazon resistant, to your point. So they're in the neighborhood. Want to hit on one point, Joe, not to change the subject, but you talk a lot about attitude of the entrepreneur. Could you expand on that? You were talking about mindsets and how that's really important, and I believe that so wholeheartedly. So give me your take on it.
So in my first book, the CAP equation, the one you held up, C stands for competencies. I believe that you have to be a competent salesperson. You have to know what to say. And the A is for attitudes and P is for pipeline practices, seeing a lot of people. But focusing on the A, focusing on entrepreneurial attitudes for a moment, I think that we have to have an attitude about the work when we go in. And I use 10,000 hours as an example.
Yep.
We have to be willing to put our 10,000 hours in, and it may be 5,000 hours, it may be 7,000 hours. But what that really means to me is we have to go in understanding that we're not going to know everything right up front. We're going to fail, but we're going to fail forward.
Yep.
We're going to probably use a lot of labels that are unproductive for us. We're going to use rejection, failure, crisis. We attach a lot of labels, but to me, everything is a metric result. Everything we do in business, I've learned to remove the emotion from and view as a metric result. So I tried this. This was the metric result. I collect data, I look at data, I look at trend lines in my business, and it didn't work as well as I'd like. How can I tweak it? How can I improve it? There's no real emotion tied up in it. And what goes along with having a commitment to the work, understanding that I'm going to have to put in my 10,000 hours. I'm not going to be an overnight sensation in this franchise business or whatever business I'm opening. There are going to be some comeuppance. I need to commit to the work and enjoy the work. I also need to wake up every morning. This is the second part of it. And I need to be willing to start over with a smile on my face. Okay. And that's what I was always willing to do in sales or in any business that I started. I was willing to put in my 10,000 hours to become an expert at my space and my role. I was willing to put in the work. I didn't label things with a lot of dramatic emotional labels like failure, rejection, crisis, or whatever. It was just a metric result to be analyzed and possibly some competencies to be improved. Or maybe I needed to improve my pipeline and get more people in the door, so to speak, physically or virtually in the door. So almost everything could be reduced to that formula. Am I competent? Do I understand the industry I'm in and how to explain it and message it? Am I coming to the table with some attitudes that are productive attitudes, productive mindsets? And mindsets, if you look at the definition, mindsets is a set of attitudes that drives behavior. And the attitude or mindset's an interchangeable word. And we often overlook that. We overlook just getting our head right and going into the scenario, going into the business, prepared for war, because the business is war, prepared for war, and understanding that we'll have to put in our 10,000 hours, we'll have to erase emotion from it. And guess what? Tomorrow morning, if I had a horrible day, so what? Tomorrow morning, I'm going to wake up and it's a brand new day. And like my wife says, Tommy, miracles happen every day.
It's so true. It's so true. And she's awesome. I remember meeting her at one of our meetings. But again, so this is the CAP equation. So available on Amazon and all over the place. And that's where you're going to really learn about this attitude and everything that you really need to make something happen in your business. Whether it's a franchise or not, doesn't matter. This all applies. And the 10,000 hours is really something important to understand. And it's not literally 10,000 hours and all that, but it's the fact that you're willing to do the work, that there are really no shortcuts. Everybody's looking for that shortcut, and there really isn't a shortcut. You got to become the expert in your field. And that's what we help people do. That's what you help people do. So I absolutely love that. And 10,000 hours is something that we got out of Malcolm Gladwell's book. Malcolm Gladwell, if you've ever read any of his stuff, fantastic stuff. And that was his third book, Outliers. He talked about the
right, Outliers, and that was published in 2008. But did you know that Malcolm Gladwell did not invent the term 10,000 hours? He borrowed that from Anders Ericsson, who was a Scandinavian philosopher that hypothesized that to become expert at anything, that a human being would need to put 10,000 hours in. So a lot of people attribute 10,000 hours to our friend Malcolm Gladwell, but it actually was developed by Anders Ericsson, to give credit where credit is due.
I really.
So again, nothing new under the sun, right?
And that's right. And really, I didn't know that. So again,
interesting stuff.
Just another nugget. Thank you so much, Joe. That's awesome. One thing I do remember him talking about is the Beatles and how everybody thought they were really an overnight success back in the 60s, but they had played for 10,000 hours in clubs all over London before ever really breaking. I didn't know that. And I was, music is my thing. And I just thought that was a really fantastic thing to think about.
Yeah, they do. They played the clubs in London, then they went over for a year. So they went over to Hamburg, Germany. If you remember in the book, Malcolm Gladwell, who's a fantastic author, does a great job of painting the picture that they were doing 3 sets a night of the same songs. And Ringo said recently in an interview that we were so good at what we were doing that by the end of that run in Hamburg, the 3rd set every night, we could be singing our parts, playing our chords, hitting our beats, and actually having full conversations, whispering to each other at the same time. That's how good they got. And so they weren't overnight sensations. Bill Gates, he talks about Bill Gates. Bill Gates started programming when he was 14 years old, and his mother, through her influence, got him into a lab at Stanford, an early computer lab. So he'd been coding for 5 years before he realized that he should purchase the formula that became Microsoft, the coding. So yeah, interesting stuff. So you got to go to work. One thing I have to tell you is I'm very, very excited. A lot of people have asked, can you write a book just on attitudes? Because attitudes are so important, as you know. And so we are actually in production right now for a book called Winning Sales Attitudes. It just kind of blows up. We spend the whole book talking about taking a deep dive on the attitudes. And I've actually collected about a dozen very, very talented, high-performing people that are becoming CAP equation certified instructors. And they're going to be co-authors in the book. And that book is almost done. So yeah, look for that.
That's great.
But yeah, I love talking about just getting the head right. Because if you get the head right, Tommy, everything else falls into place.
I believe so. You got to have the attitude, you got to have the behavior, and you got to have the technique. And it's the practice in the 10,000 hours that really get you there. And a lot of times, and I've experienced this myself, when I'm attacking a project, if my attitude is not right, I could look back at it after it fails and realize that it was really my attitude that made it not work. And again, this is a whole nother podcast. So when that book is finished, at the release or pre-release, let's do a podcast just on attitude.
I would love to. That'd be awesome.
Most important thing in business is attitude. And like they say, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down, you just have to get up. And that's all attitude. It's the behavior. And that's what I talk about in The Magic of Choosing Uncertainty. My first book is just, the choices that you make and success or failure is
Yeah,
choices we make.
that by the way, that's sitting on my bookshelf. You can't see it here, but I'm in my home office studio and it's sitting in my bookshelf over there. That is a great book. There's so many nuggets in that book. Everyone listening to this should read that. Just because we wake up every morning, hopefully ready to fight another battle and win another battle. But we do wake up with uncertainty and it causes resistance. And we have to recognize that and beat it down every morning.
That's it. I beat it down every morning. That resistance, the fear of not succeeding, all that stuff. It's normal. I thought I was the only one, and I realized everybody kind of has that. In business, I think I might have. There's nothing new under the sun, but I think I coined the phrase: "You never find an atheist in a business." So you pray a lot.
Yeah. It's a real roller coaster for sure. And it's the acronym of fear. And I didn't invent this, I stole this, but fear, it actually stands for false evidence appearing real.
Right.
And some of us have heard that. And that's what fear is. It's false evidence that appears real to us until we pull the monster out of the closet and we identify. I like to name fears. I fear prospecting or cold calling. Okay, good. Let's give it a name. And now the monster isn't as scary anymore because it has a name and we brought it out of the closet into the light and we can deal with it. So that's the way we teach. And I'm sure you teach dealing with fear. Well, let's just identify it first, bring it into the light, start to deal with it.
Right. That is the way to do it. I just read yesterday, danger is real. Fear is a choice.
Yeah.
I love that. I don't know who said it. And then also Mark Twain, and I have to paraphrase because I don't remember exactly, but Mark Twain said something to the effect of, I feared many things in my life and almost none of them came to pass.
Yeah. I remember that quote.
Yeah. So Joe, I want to thank you for being on. How could people get in touch with you and pick your brain more about everything that you're doing?
Very easy. We have a home site, SellSource, SELSource.com. And we have a Sell on Demand program. By the way, SEL, the acronym SEL, stands for salespeople, entrepreneurs, and leaders. That's who we attract. That's who we talk to. If there are sales leaders out there, entrepreneurs, or professional high-level salespeople, that's who we like to talk to. So SEL, sellsource.com. And I'm one of those funny guys that actually returns emails. If someone emails me and tells me, hey, I love one of your books. My second book was called Drawing Circles. I think it's over there. That actually was a work of fiction based on a true story. And then my third book, Life in Sales, Volume 1. So they're all on Amazon. But my email address, and if a fan of the book wants to ask a question, I usually return the email within 24 to 48 hours, is jbuzzello, JBUZZELLO, jbuzzello @me.com. I have other email addresses, but that's the shortest one, Tommy.
And that's great. And I'm going to put it all on the website, thefranchiseacademy.com. So check that out. Joe Buzzello, thank you so much for being on.
My pleasure. I've got to tell you, I've known you for a little while, and if you even have the inkling of buying a business, becoming a franchisee, this is the guy that you need to talk to and work with. He has so much wisdom, so much knowledge. So thank you. As one pro to another, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, thank you. And thanks for saying that. I feel humbled. Thank you so much. But we're going to get Joe's information out there. Reach out to him. It's going to be an awesome conversation that you could have with Joe. He's very, very open, so do it. Got some great experience, 40 years of experience. So are you stuck on something with sales, something not working in your business? Get in touch with Joe. He'll help you right out. It's he's just an amazing guy. By the way, thank you for all the charity work that you're doing with the Cancer Society and everything. That is just awesome. I just wanted to mention that.
Well, you're welcome. It's a great, it comes from the heart with us.
It really does. And I really appreciate that. So again, God bless you. And we'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Have a great week and weekend. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Joe. Be well.
Thanks.
All right. So I shut off the recording. And let's see. We're still on YouTube. So give me a second.